Hi, this is Shona. Thanks for joining me for this version of Into the Bible. If you're visiting us for the first time, the purpose of these videos is to help people find a comfort level getting into the Bible on their own um, without feeling they have to have a commentary or have a Bible teacher sitting across the table from them, just to show that you don't have to be a theologian to get a message from God. So part of the tool is to have a theme going through each gospel. Our theme, as a reminder, going through the book of Matthew is, are we elevating man over God or God over man? So anyway, I do have a companion website called Into the Bible. If you want to go to that, you can see the call letters in the description of this video. Anyway, so today we are in Matthew 6. And as I read through Matthew 6 on my own, it wasn't any one verse that stuck out to me, but a combination of three that helped me learn the message and see why we have that saying, don't toot your own horn. So with that, let's go ahead and jump in, and I'll share my thoughts on Matthew 6 and hopefully encourage you to get in and see what God has to say to you. So first of all, we're going to go to Matthew 6:1 right away, and it says, be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of other people. And I think there's a couple of ways that we can do that. But the first one I saw was kind of related to the Pharisees. We really haven't done much with them. We haven't seen too much of the Pharisees yet, but we are getting close to them, and they're going to really take an integral part in the book of Matthew. So anyway, but the Pharisees, it was really easy to identify because they wore their righteousness on their sleeve. And the thing about it was their righteousness. It wasn't Jesus's righteousness. So you can find that we practice our righteousness in front of others. Maybe a good clue for me anyway is when we get maybe critical or hyper judgmental with people, or maybe even just a little judgmental. It doesn't have to be hyper judgmental. And I know in the past I did that quite a bit. I was quite good at being a Pharisaical type Christian. Not so much anymore since I've matured as a Christian. Thank goodness I'm a lot better today than I was, but I'm still not perfect. So I still have to be careful that I don't wear my righteousness on my sleeve and be critical of others and look down my nose at others. So I think that that's part of what it says. And anytime that we do that, like if I'm wearing my righteousness, that means I'm not wearing Jesus's righteousness. And I'm elevating myself over God and over Jesus. So that's not a good thing. This section goes on a little bit further on, and it talks about doing things in secret, good things in secret. It says, don't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing, or left hand know what your right hand is doing. But bottom line, it basically is don't toot your own horn. Basically, do something, when you do something nice, it's not like, look at me, look at me. And we'll see when we get to the Pharisees that they're pretty good at that. They're really good about tooting their own horn about the things that they do. But the things that they do really aren't that good when you get right down to them. But they look good when you're wearing your own righteousness. So over the years, it's fun. I've been made privy of certain fun little things, good things that people have done with others. They've just shared with me. Not that they're tooting their own horn, but maybe just to share some fun things like in conversation. I had one lady I know that they lived next door to a young family that didn't have a whole lot of resources, and they had quite a few kids, and they really had a lot of fun buying clothes for the little ones and putting them on hangers and hanging them on the door, like knocking on the door and running away. Maybe they didn't even knock on the door. Maybe just on the sly they went and hung it at night, and the family found the little clothes in the morning, and they shared what fun that was. And I don't think the family that was the recipient of those clothes ever knew who did it. But yet that family, or the girl who was telling me about it, she had such fun memories sharing with me about how she had done that, and no one ever knew that it was them. Now, sure, she was sharing it with me, and some people might say, well, wasn't she tooting her horn? I don't think so when we share our fun things like that. I also know someone who paid for a young mother, a young couple, and the mother was stay at home. She had two kids, and she really needed a break during the day. So this person paid for her to take her kids to preschool, and they never knew it. And it was kind of fun because I knew both parties, so it was kind of fun to see the one lady pondering who's doing this, and the other lady saying, I'm so glad to do this, and I don't need to have their things. Just to know that she's happy and getting a break with the kids. So I think that's good. Don't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing. And when we don't look for adoration from man, we're elevating God because that's who we're trying to please. We're okay if God's the only one that knows. Now, we go on to verse 5, and I didn't write what specifically it says, but it talks about praying to try to get the applause of others. Now, yeah, this kind of speaks to me, and it's a little bit embarrassing, but I'll share it anyway. Um, a lot of people, and we'll see that the Pharisees are pretty good at doing that, but in my more Pharisaical days, I was pretty good at it too. At first, when I became a Christian and started attending Sunday school and going to church and everything, I was a little embarrassed to pray in front of others. But once I got a taste of that sweet honey, prayer is always sweet honey, but I applied a little bit more of this. I considered myself the sweet honey. Oh, when they'd ask me to help in the service and pray, oh my goodness, I'd write down the most eloquent prayers and I would use big words. And I'm like, oh, they're going to think I'm so spiritual because I can pray this prayer. Yeah, see me rolling my eyes? Yeah, that's kind of silly. In Sunday school, pray, it's like, oh, dear Father God, this and that and everything. Not to say that other people that pray like that are being disingenuous. Not to say that I was being disingenuous because, yeah, I do want to pray to God, but I was trying to look for lauds from people and to get this, oh, you're such a good prayer. It was so silly. But anyway, that was one thing I did. It was like the self-satisfaction. I was looking for self-gratification and gratification from man. So I really wasn't elevating God over me very well. I was really quite the hypocrite because really God didn't want all those fancy words and all those eloquent phrases. All he did is he wanted a prayer from my heart. Now he gets them better. I'm not a prayer warrior, so sometimes, yeah, anyway, that's a whole nother video. But anyway, I was kind of a self-serving jerk. I'm much better, still not a prayer warrior, but whatever, that's the way it goes. And then in verse 16, it talks about the sad-faced fasters. We always elevate ourselves when we're doing something like a sacrifice, but then we want everybody to know, oh, this is such a sacrifice. Okay, yeah, no, we're not supposed to do that. That's what it's talking about. That's kind of wearing our self-righteousness of sacrifice on our sleeves so that people can see, oh, she's sacrificing so much. I probably did that too. I really don't have many memories of doing that. I probably still do a little bit of that today. Who knows? But after reading this, I'm going to, and God putting this before my eyes, I'm going to be a little bit more aware of those instances where I might be pulling that card. So anyway, a lot of these things that I've done, it's kind of humiliating looking back on it, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because all of this points to being humble and having humility. After reading this, I was kind of a little bit humiliated thinking, did I really do that? And I did. But it unmasked my arrogance, and it continues to unmask it when I find myself doing that today. It's just another area where I need to mature, and I guess that's why God made this jump out at me with the theme, is maybe I need to be a little bit more cognizant. Maybe I've gotten a little bit away from noticing that in myself. But the message I'm getting is be humble. Don't toot my own horn. So I'm going to close with something that I used to tell my kids when they were growing up. I can't remember exactly the phrase, but basically it's the gist of it, is when they would tend to say, oh, look how good I've done, which kids are going to do that just because they're immature and they want the praise of their parents. But also in trying to prepare them to grow up, I'd say, don't praise yourself. Save your praise for others and let others praise you. I think that's probably a pretty good thing for all of us to keep in the back of our mind, because when we are praising ourselves or we're getting the adoration of man and we're soaking it up because we are being a little bit arrogant or self-righteous or whatever, we are not displaying humility. I think that's a good thing to help us just stop and check ourselves and make sure that we are staying humble for God, because anytime we're humble and elevating Him, that's exactly what we're supposed to be doing. We're putting ourselves lower and we're raising Him up higher. So I hope this has helped you. It's certainly going to help me keep in check. So I hope you'll join me next time as we dive into the Bible.